Soul Servers, welcome back to a brand new video. I am so incredibly excited for today's video because it's a video idea I've had for a really long time, but the task always seemed a little bit daunting. Then, when I got early access to the new expansion pack through the EA Creator Network, I decided that this would actually be the perfect opportunity to put this idea to the test. Because in today's video, we're gonna go over all the item descriptions of the new Sims pack. Well, the highlights. I have read every single 180 plus descriptions of all the build buy items that come with the new expansion pack. As you can imagine, this video took a really long time to make. If you enjoyed this video and it brought you some entertainment value, please consider leaving a little like, subscribing to my channel, and if you plan on buying the new expansion pack, also feel free to use my creator code Rosannatxt to support my content. And also, if you like this video, please let me know in the comments down below if you would like to see more videos like this of all the other packs that we've gotten in the game. Because obviously this is the first time that I'm making something like this, and I don't think there's any video like this out there, so it's really an experiment. Like I said, there's over 180 items in this pack, so I'm not gonna sit here and read every single one of you to you guys, because I don't think that would be fun. It would take a really long time, and we would also read a bunch of them that are actually relatively generic. So for this video, what I have done is I actually took screenshots of every single item description, and then I used a little system to categorize them into things that were related to each other, into things that were really funny, into item descriptions that were actually really informative. And I have actually set up a bunch of categories that I would use to structure this video. Ironically enough, I ended up with 69 items, and yes, that is completely unintentional, but it is very funny, that I would like to share and read to you. Some of them are actually part of a larger story where they reference to each other. Some of them are standalone funny ones that I thought would be worth sharing. So without further ado, let's actually start with the first category, and that is witty or funny descriptions. This is, I think, by far the biggest category because the Sims team, I swear, has a field day writing these. I genuinely think that the writers for this game are having so much fun behind the scenes writing them because there are so many funny and witty ones. The first one in this pack is a combination of 3 items where all items come with a steel frame bed. And I feel like as you read through the descriptions, they get increasingly worried about you actually realizing that it is a steel frame bed. Let me read them to you. So first we start with a single bed that says, if you're a bed shopping rookie, let's get you a bed that offers sweet dreams despite being made of metal pipes. This bed is smooth and cool like a slice of ice cream cake. Trust me, the comfort is automatic. I know it sounds like something kind of crazy, especially considering the whole metal pipe situation, but I swear it's not. It's just a solid bed. When you read that one and then you go on to the double bed version, they feel like they really have to convince you that it's safe to sleep in a bed that is made of metal pipes. This sleek metal double bed is a cosmic delight. From day one of owning this bed, you'll feel like it's your birthday every day. It'll give you butterflies. Look, I just can't tell you enough how this bed is a perfect 10 about the love that I have for it. If you just ignore the fact that it's a bunch of metal pipes and take a chance on this bed, one of these nights you'll realize we weren't lying. So from this point, you start to feel a little bit suspicious about the fact that they keep mentioning that the bed is made of metal pipes, and then you get to the bunk bed situation. Just like the others, despite the harsh aesthetic of the metal pipes, this bed can be as warm and cozy as a sunny afternoon. And hey, you'll be so high up you could probably, hear the sea, or something like that. Don't be a fool, just go for it. Please? And the fact that they're saying please at the end is starting to make me feel really concerned about this bed made of metal pipes. I don't think it's safe. Moving on from the 3 metal frames beds, we are actually going to a duo of chairs, which I feel like are actually look-wise one of my favorite items in the new pack, but I feel like the game developers or the writers feel like these chairs absolutely deserve no praise. The first one being this butterfly folding chair. This comfortable adjacent chair is certainly a chair. It allegedly folds up, which is nice, and over time it'll start to sag. It's basically the type of chair your auntie grabs from the closet when everyone else at the barbecue took the good chairs. I do feel like we all know this type of chair, and it is true, it is not necessarily the most comfortable, but it does look nice. However, if you actually go to the second part that comes with this chair, which is the backless butterfly folding chair, that's where they get really serious about how bad these chairs are. This medieval torture device, chair, retains the same functional "here is a surface to sit on" vibes as the butterfly folding chair, but subtracts the one saving grace of the original in favor of a backless stool experience. Truly the thing of nightmares. And in all honesty, I kind of have to agree with them. This is probably one of the most uncomfortable seating arrangements that exists out there. However, I do think it's funny that they put it into writing for the specific pack. Next up, we have a duo of a chair and a sofa. They want to make sure that you know if you sit on it, you're actually in constant spilling danger. The Wonderwood armchair. Careful about sitting in this if the sides aren't against a wall. Someone could just walk up and grab the handle on the side and pull you around. You could get hurt. Or worse, drop your grilled cheese mid-bite. The horror. And at first I didn't really know what they were talking about, but when I looked a bit closer, there's one of those like handle rings on the side of this chair, like an old chest kind of has sometimes. And honestly, I have never thought about potentially, when I saw that on a chair, pulling someone, but now obviously I do actually have the mischievous intention of trying that one time. Next to the chair, we also have the Wonderwood love seat. Careful about sitting in this if the sides aren't against a wall. Someone, who admittedly would have to be very strong, could just walk up and pull the sofa around, and you with it. You could get hurt, or worse, spill your berry banana blitz smoothie. The horror. And I love that they actually refer to two different things that you can actually find in The Sims. The chair, they refer to the grilled cheese, which is obviously a base game thing, but here they refer to a smoothie, which is the pack feature specific. Then next up, there is obviously a brand new feature that comes with this pack, and that is spinning. And they made sure that when you read that item description, you can kind of feel the pain that you would feel if you go to a spinning class. So first, we have the regular bike, which is for everyone who's taking the class. She is beauty, she is grace. She'll make you sweat all over the place. The glute force spinning bike is peak of indoor cardio. Perfect for Sims who laugh in the face of a leg day right before sobbing through it. Whether you're training for the tour the living room or just trying to pedal away your life's choices, this bike's got your back. And your quads, and your glutes, and your will to keep going. If you can still walk afterwards, you did not push hard enough. And then when you think that one's bad, let's read the instructor's one. She is beauty, she is grace, she is yelling faster with a smile on her face. The Glute Force instructor spinning bike isn't for the faint of heart. It's for the Sims who leads the charge, shouts through the sweat, and somehow still looks fabulous while doing it. Built to command the class and destroy a few egos on the way, this bike turns any room into a stage and every workout into a dramatic performance. And honestly, for anyone who's ever done a spinning class, you will know exactly what type of instructor they are talking about sitting on this bike, and they are infuriating because while you're dying on that other spinning bike, the instructor indeed looks glorious and like it is not actually taking them any effort to be that hyped while doing a workout. Then another brand new pack feature is the diving boards that come with the pools, and these diving boards get oddly specific. So there is a newer version of the diving boards, and there is an older, more rustic version of the diving boards. So we start with the quintessential diving board, the short edition, a classic diving board for classic divers, ready to launch you into the air with ease and precision. And since this one is quite short, you don't have to worry about a fear of heights. As someone with a very intense fear of heights, I can truly empathize. In this one, I already thought it was kind of funny that the writer is sort of speaking to you as if they need to tell you how scared they are of heights. They're trying to sell you the diving board. But then when we go to the taller version of the quintessential diving board, the tall edition, a classic diving board for oh my, it's so tall. I just felt a shiver run down my spine at the sheer sight of it. You can't make me climb up this abomination. Get it away from me. And I feel like it's personally really funny if you imagine in the first one, they are really trying to assure you that it's safe. And then in this one, they get absolutely panicked themselves and they just don't want to go on it. And then from these two, which are the newer metal versions, we actually have the wooden version as well. So the first one being the short and woodsy diving board. A rustic take on the classic diving board. This thing may creak a little like a dying llama and wiggle like a hungry cowplant all at once, but it sure packs a punch when it comes to airtime. And some rural charm, of course. And I feel like I can, weirdly enough, exactly envision what it sounds like and what it looks like when they are talking about a dying llama and a wiggle of a hungry cowplant. I think I've played too much Sims. And then they also have the tall and woodsy diving board. a taller, rustic take on the classic diving board. If you lean the wrong way on this one, it sounds like a rickety rust bucket spaceship crash landing back from Sixam in the middle of a record-setting thunderstorm. But it works great, and I feel like, again, with this one, I've played too much Sims because why can I exactly imagine what that would sound like? Then next up, this pack actually has a little bit of grandma lore, is the best way that I can describe it. Because there's a couple of items that are very specifically handed to you by your, let's say, in-game grandma. We start with these short curtains. They are called Gran-Gran's short flannel curtains. Gran-Gran gifted you the flannel these curtains are made out of back in elementary school. How, you might ask, did she make such a small shirt turn into enough fabric for curtains? Well, you'll just have to ask Gran-Gran. On its own, that is not a very weird description. However, if we continue reading on to the taller version, which is called the Gran-Gran's medium flannel curtains, it starts to get worrisome. Gran-Gran made even bigger curtains, and you can bet your bottom simoleons that she had a blast doing it. Stay young, Gran-Gran. And at this point, especially with the stay young Gran-Gran, I start to sense a little bit of sarcasm. And then we get to the tall flannel curtains. All right, Gran-Gran, enough's enough. You're out of control. Someone stop this old woman. She's a curtain-making machine. She's making way too many curtains for her own good, and these ones are huge. And I don't know, again, I feel like the Sims writers just have so much fun with writing these descriptions and being like, okay, we have 3 identical curtains. How are we gonna write a description that fits all of them? When they did that, they weren't done, because there is another item that references this same grandma as being a relatively peculiar Sim. The next item is called Gran-Gran's Pots and Pans. She'd get cross with you for even thinking about using these, so don't touch. You, of all people, should know Gran-Gran is very particular about how they are used and organized. And yet again, I feel like so many of us reading this will immediately have a visual representation of what this grandma is like. Like someone that will literally yell at you for even thinking about taking that colander from the wall and actually using it. I personally love these little bits and bobs because for me it gives a pack sort of life, because it alludes to personality that was there before you started playing the game. Then the next one is a very specific singular item, and that is a rug. This is actually by far one of my favorite looking items in the new pack because I think it's adorable. But when I was reading the description, for anyone who had ever had any sensory issues or, you know, any struggles with sounds growing up, this one might be recognizable for yourself. This reliable rug can withstand decades of stampedes of excited kids crossing over it. But walk with me for a second. You ever actually stepped on one of these things? Man, I'm telling you, this thing is crunchy. Like seriously, it's like stepping on a big pile of dead leaves. And how does it not break when it's crunching like that? Day in, day out. And I don't know about you guys, but when I read this, I immediately could feel the crunch. Like I knew what type of rug this was. I don't know how to describe it. I don't know what a rug like this is called, but it feels like you're walking on like dead leaves or dead twigs, and it does indeed crunch a lot. Like, please let me know in the comments down below if you know what type of rug this is. Be prepared. The next item is actually going to throw some shame at you, the player, for actually wanting to use it. It is called the Vintage Cast Iron Fireplace. This thing is so old it should be in a museum, which begs the question, why is it being sold? But let's not argue semantics. If you enjoy it, feel free to buy it. Just because it makes you a terrible person who disrespects historical artifacts doesn't mean you can't enjoy a nice cozy fire, eh? And I feel like with this one, I'm a person sensitive to this type of marketing. I would genuinely feel bad for using this fireplace. The next item is another one somewhat related to a feature that comes in the pack, namely being papercraft. And when you are doing papercraft, you can make butterflies. And contrary to popular belief, this item tells us that paper-crafted butterflies are not fragile. Don't touch this. Don't spill anything on it. Don't breathe on it. Don't sneeze near it. Don't shout bad words at it. And don't you dare debate politics with it. And no, I'm not saying this because it's delicate. These quote-unquote paper butterflies are ancient agents of chaos and destruction, and we cannot risk waking them. The future of Simkind depends on it. So just so you know, if you ever thought that paper-crafted butterflies are fragile or delicate, they are clearly not. Speaking of butterflies, every single butterfly that you can catch in this pack has its own description. I'm not going to read all of them, even though I can highly recommend when you get your hands on this pack to read all of them yourself. I picked a couple that really stood out to me. The first one being the jelly butterfly. Although the first discovered jelly butterfly was affectionately named Peanut by lepidopterist Dr. A. Sandwich, the name has nothing to do with food. It was named for its translucent wings, which resembles a jellyfish's gelatinous form. For some reason, when I read this the first time, it genuinely made me giggle out loud because I don't think I've ever seen anyone go such a long way to put a peanut butter jelly sandwich reference in anything. The next butterfly is the magical origami butterfly, a rare butterfly that was born of lepidopterology, imagination, and just a dash of magic. Oh, also paper. The paper was also important. And for me, it's just funny that they literally call it an origami butterfly, but then go out of their way to explain that it was actually made of a lot of other things than paper, even though the paper was also important. And then the last one in the butterfly category is the glasswing butterfly. Most butterflies have wing patterns that mimic their eyes or creatures to ward off predators. But the glasswing butterfly has transparent wings that help it blend into the environment without the need of fancy coloration. This is a rare trait amongst butterflies. To this point, I was like, that's a normal description. But then the last sentence, they also taste nasty. Stuff like that just makes me giggle. I don't know, probably I'm a child. I also don't know if children actually find this funny. Obviously, there's a lot of kids playing the game who probably never read the descriptions either. To me, the idea that someone was like, ooh, I'm studying butterflies, let me try and taste one. I just think too much in images. I have too much of a vivid imagination to see that happening and then them realizing that it was actually very nasty. The next item is yet another specific pack feature, and that is the Smoothietron, a blender experience. And just in case you were wondering, is this anything special? Yes, it very, very clearly is. If you'd rather be caught dead than endure a mundane smoothie making experience, the good news is that you'll surely live another day. No longer shall you be stuck in the maelstrom of metonymy, the vortex of existential terror as you awaken to yet another smoothieless day. No. Starting today, you will be surrounded by goopy blends of varying viscosity, perfectly incorporated to achieve a cold state of thick, liquid bliss. Though you won't be able to put a lid on your happiness with this blender, we highly recommend you keep the lid on while blending. The Sims team must have had such a field day with writing these things, because like, how is your actual work sitting down and just coming up with a way too lengthy explanation for something as simple as a blender? And I think they did a 10 out of 10 job with this one. Next up is an item that, funnily enough, if you use it, you very clearly get on the nerves of the corporation that was actually making this one. So we start with an intense canvas arch. A canvas archway that will fit perfectly on a canvas wall. Because why would you not build a wooden archway inside of a canvas tent? Or yurt, or whatever? Unless you really like wooden archways enough to lug one around with all that canvas. Wait, you do? Hey, just so you know, if you do, I'm judging you real hard right now. So when you think you got judged for that one, wait until you wait for the next item that actually sort of continues on the judgment. The intense canvas door. A canvas door that will fit perfectly on a, you guessed it, canvas wall. Because why, for the love of all of that is good in this world, would you put a wooden door inside of its... Wait a second, it's you again? The one who loves wooden archways, right? Haven't we been over this before? Don't tell me that you love wooden doorways too. You know what? No, we are not doing this over here too. Take your weird self back to the intense canvas arch, okay? I can maybe forgive the wooden archway, but a door? In a tent? You are my personal nightmare. And honestly, every single time that I shall be using this door in tents, I will be thinking of the person who I gave the absolute worst workday of their life. The last one in this category before we move on to the next one is an item that I personally think takes the cake for the worst but best name in the pack. And those are the Soggy Loggies Stilt Foundation. Phew! These loggies are bound to get soggy, but hey, better to butter them than the precious interior of your coastal home. And don't get me wrong, I think this is a perfect name, but at the same time, please tell me I'm not alone in feeling that Soggy Loggies has somewhat of an adjacent feeling as moist Like, that's what it makes me think of. Let me know in the comments if you feel the same. And with that, we are actually moving on from the category of funny and witty descriptions into the next one that is a lot shorter, but yet I wanted to include it. And those are descriptions that are actually really beautiful or emotional, or just really made me feel like this was a wholesome item in the game. First, we start with the campfire that comes with this pack, which is called Campfire of Clarity. Shine a light of clarity that cuts cleanly through the obscure darkness of night. Even the warm embers of its aftermath can guide the way for those who come after. This campfire can serve as the monolith of beauty at the center of a child's beloved camp memory. Or it could be the picturesque, luminous centerpiece of a romantic night out for a couple seeking to rekindle their flame, so to speak. And for some reason, I found this whole description so incredibly poetic. And as a kid who used to go to camp in summer with my scouts group, for me, genuinely, nights at the campfire do give that beloved camp memory. So when I was reading this, I was like, oh, that's actually so cute. I can't wait to give my Sims kids that same experience. Then the next item is actually an item that you unlock if you complete the park worker career. So it is a reward item, but it's called the Helping Hand Paper Mache. Every great camp counselor leaves their mark, sometimes literally. This handcrafted paper mache sculpture, complete with a tiny camper's painted handprint, is a heartfelt thank you for all the stories told, songs sung, and marshmallows perfectly roasted. Display it proudly and remember, you made camp unforgettable. And I feel like this is the exact same oh, that's so wholesome moment I had when thinking about the campfire, but then almost from the other side of the table. I can just imagine if you for everyone that's ever been a camp counselor or ever worked with kids, it is the most heartwarming thing when a kid comes up to you and is like, you made that so-and-so's experience for me unforgettable or special or wonderful. That's one of the most touching things that can ever happen. So the fact that this is in the game and that your park worker sim can remember that their camp counseling made a difference to a sim in game, stuff like that makes me way too attached to my pixel characters. And with that, we are actually moving on to the next category. And that is a category that is completely solely for one of the corporations that comes with this specific pack. Because as far as I know, BamCo is a completely new corporation, but they have something to say because they don't just make playgrounds, they make sure that you know how to use them. I also feel like for anyone who's ever worked in corporate, this part of the video is a little trigger warning. It's gonna be painfully recognizable. And we're starting with a little feud between two departments. And we start with the BamCo playground piece, the ladder. A significantly cooler way to ascend your short playground platforms, because stairs are for losers. Don't tell the stairs department I said that though. Those guys are real sensitive, They take stairs way too seriously. It's actually a bit concerning. Let's take a little look at the climbing walls. Woo, climbing! It's way cooler than stairs. Really, I'm serious this time. Do not tell the stair guys about this one. This is even cooler than the ladder, maybe. And in case you're wondering how serious the stair guys take stairs, well, obviously, we're gonna go and read the description for the connector stairs. Take your playground to new heights with these stairs. Literally, I'm telling you, we really do love stairs here in the BamCo Stairs department. Without them, how would you get onto the playground platforms? A ladder? Absolutely not. Stairs are our past, stairs are our future, stairs are our everything. And don't even think about mentioning a climbing wall. Ugh, I struggle at the very thought. And I feel like something like this where two departments genuinely feel like their way is the best way, for anyone who's worked in corporate, you will know. That is really how it goes. Then, of course, apart from having some intercompany struggles, the company as a whole also has a very important image to uphold. So first we start with the BamCo playground piece, a fence. You know what they say, a safe playground is a fun playground. Or as we say here at BamCo, a safe playground is a doesn't generate a lawsuit playground. Please buy this so that our legal team can rest easy for another day. I feel like in this case, they are prioritizing safety, which is a good thing as a corporate, but it's funny that for them, the emphasis is on preventing lawsuits rather than making their playground equipment very safe. Then next up, in case you really enjoy playing at these playgrounds, you can potentially start working for them later, or at least you do have to be qualified. Because if you take a look at the bubble window fence, there is a very specific description that will tell you whether you're welcome or not. Gaze into a world of imagination. What will it be this time? A submarine window, a view of Sixum from your spaceship, or perhaps a future career at BamCo? It's never too soon to think about your future, kids, unless you waste your education and grow up with zero applicable skills, in which case, we never said that. So for any of your kids that are doing very well in school, if they ever aspire a career at BamCo, they clearly have space. Then let's take a look at the tunnel ad, which I think might have shipped a little bit too soon with the pack because I don't think the marketing department was done with this text. A tunnel that, insert witty, public-friendly comment here, you enter one side and come out the other. Insert funny phrase to exclaim in surprise here. What will we do next? A. Insert an idea for a playground piece that is tunnel-related yet approachably absurd here. You'd be crazy to suggest that. Note, change crazy to something else. BamCo customers are not to be insulted unless they specifically ask to be, or absolutely deserve it for being a total jerk. So just in case you were wondering, if you are being a total jerk to the BamCo company, they will call you crazy. And then lastly, as a standalone piece, this company does not only sell modular playground equipment, they also sell swings and slides that work on their own. And this slide is very specific because it stands alone in a field, a beautiful metal monolith of a childhood wonder and excitement. This slide, some clear skies, the wind in your hair as you glide down the sleek metal. Cinema. Pure cinema. Just please be mindful of how long it has been sitting in the sun. We here at BamCo wouldn't want to find ourselves on the wrong side of a fiery lawsuit, now would we? And just in case you wonder if you do own seasons with this pack, the slides might actually be dangerous. So they might find themselves on the other end of a fiery lawsuit. After all, moving from one dreadful corporate company, there is actually another company that produces items for this pack, and they are called the Glorious Window Company. Although, after reading the item descriptions, I start to wonder whether it's actually a company. So let's read through all the products that they make as a company, and we start with the Glorious Glass Window version 1. This little thing is supposed to be glorious. I want it taller. Surely, a glorious window must be taller. Back to the drawing board, my minions. So as the minions go back to the drawing board, they come up with Glorious Glass Window version 2. Yes, this is taller, one step closer to the glorious moniker surely. But I must admit, I miss the square shape. Quickly, my minions, make it wider and taller. And you know what? Double it. One pane isn't enough to be deemed glorious. Back to the drawing board the minions go as they come up with Glorious Glass Window version 3. Precisely as I requested, my beloved window minions. This is indeed taller and wider and double to perfection. Or should I say, near perfection. It's too wide, too square. Every third window on the market today is square. We need to dream taller to be truly glorious. So the minions go back to their drawing board and they come up with Glorious Glass Window version 4. Now this is a glorious window, truly deserving of its name. My beautiful window crafting minions, I could smooch each of you right now. However, I must admit, despite the elation in my heart, I can't help but wonder if we can go even further. I want to fall on my knees in awe of the glory of our glorious window. It should take a unique shape. Go, my minions, create our magnum opus. And as the minions go back to the drawing board one last time, they design the Glorious Window version 5. Yes, my minions, this truly is the most glorious window. We cannot achieve more glory than this. My tears of joys are ceaseless. My neurons are firing on all cylinders at the sheer sight of such magnificence. Rest easy now, knowing you've changed the world, my beloved minions. Unfortunately, the minions did not rest easy, because the minions were done being the minions and creating windows that just kept on needing to be changed. So the minions fought for their freedom and decided to build their own company. The Glorious Dormer of Solidarity. We, the former minions of that glory-obsessed window maker, have risen up. In truth, it was our hard work that kept him relevant and wealthy. Now we've taken a stand and hope to earn a decent living by seizing the means of window production. We present our first independent creation, this glorious window dormer for your glorious home. And I love that like this has a whole story arc that you even have to go into separate categories of the build catalog that comes with this pack, because first you go into the windows and then you have to go into the dormer like roof decoration category to even find the whole complete story. And I'm so happy that the minions got their freedom and they are no longer working for that person who kept requesting more changes. Moving on from all the company drama, we're going into the next category, which is pack lore. These are all items that have, in one way or another, references to things that you can find in the world, that you can find in the pack, that are tied to characters that you'll find like NPCs. And I personally think this is really cool because by reading these descriptions, you actually get a deeper understanding of what this pack is about, or like what happened in the world prior to you playing in it. And we actually start with some lore about someone who is living in the lighthouse in the new pack. And the person who lives in the lighthouse actually arrived to Gibby Point at one point as an expeditioner, or at least it doesn't fully confirm it, but with reading all the descriptions, I personally had a feeling they were talking about the same person. First, we start with the journals of the Gibby Point expeditioner. An excerpt from a journal recovered on the shores of Jellyfish Junction in Gibby Point. Source unknown. I have somehow find myself in a place that defies all logic and reason. What was once a typical expedition in the same tradition of those undertaken by my forebears has now become a solitary endeavor in a world apart after I woke up on this foreign shore here. Here there is no slowly dying city that I've always known, no fractured wilds full of terrifying dangers, no countdown to my inevitable demise. Here there are jellyfish, cute little birds the locals call plum birds, and countless Sims enjoying themselves in the great outdoors. It's a land of happiness, and though I might never see my friends again, I can only hope that I can someday call this home. And for anyone who is into fantasy and like reading about post-apocalyptic worlds, I feel like this is a time traveler or someone who traveled through time and space to accidentally find themselves at Gibby Point. And when I continue reading and I share the other two items that have this pack lore tied to the person living in the lighthouse, I think you might see why that person living in the lighthouse is actually the same person who wrote these journals. So our next item is called the Old Fletcher's Clock. Though his name is lost to time, the legacy of the old Fletcher, who once lived atop a lonely lighthouse in Jellyfish Junction, lives on. Jellyfish Junction is where the journals were found, and that's also the location that expeditioner talks about. Nobody seemed to know where he came from, but for years he was the arbiter of all things archery in Gibby Point. Again, no one knows where he came from, so that also suggests it might be that expeditioner. He was a recluse, devoted solely to the beautiful craftsmanship of his arrows. It was often said that he only wished to speak through his creations, though many didn't know he also befriended the plumbirds that congregated around the lighthouse to watch the ships sail in. One day, the locals stopped receiving their shipment of arrows. A group of devoted archers visited the lighthouse only to find it empty and uninhabited, save for a small, handwritten letter pinned to the door by a beautifully crafted arrow. It expressed the old Fletcher's heartfelt gratitude to the community for accepting him and giving him purpose after he lost everything. Again, that is what the person writing the journals also refers to. It was the most anyone had ever heard from him since he arrived. It was also the last. To this day, lonely Sims will leave letters taped to the side of the lighthouse seeking connection with the community. I feel like this is one of those things that gives certain spaces in your world. Like if you travel in your world, if you are playing in the world of Gibby Point, you will actually see this lighthouse and it gives it so much meaning. And also if you want to use it for storytelling, you can actually pretend like your Sim goes to the lighthouse and leaves a little note there if they're feeling lonely. However, this is not the end of the story because there's a third item that talks about the Fletcher living in the lighthouse. This item is called the Sky Piercer, and it's actually something that you unlock if you complete the archery skill. Legend has it that the old man who lived at the lonely lighthouse in Gibby Point, renowned for his fletching skills, refused to make arrows for only one bow. It was a bow so powerful that it could imbue arrows with ancient magic once considered lost to time, the Sky Piercer. And the reason? It was wielded by some doofus who was such a bad archer that his name is actually lost to time. He must have inherited or stolen the bow from someone who assumedly deserved to wield it. I feel like this is a really nice way of sort of tying that lore that they told through other items back to something that is really accurate in the pack, namely you learning the archery skill and potentially initially being very bad at it, but once you get really good at it, you get this very special bow that the specific Fletcher would never make any arrows for. So it's like two different pieces of lore somewhat coming together. Then we're moving on to another item that has some pack lore. It is a singular item, but that's the traditional Gibby rug. This rug is woven in a way that was passed down for generations of families in Gibby Point. A beautiful testament of the tradition and the history of this cute town and the lush nature that surrounds it. And I love it when they do stuff like this because I think a really important part of culture is art and traditions and like activities that you do as a group. And I love that for me, like if you see a rug like this, now I won't just use it because it's beautiful, but I'll also use it because in a way it gives like a rich history to using that in Gibby Point, if that makes any sense. Then we're gonna go to the next one, which is actually a collection of paintings. And this one is pack lore, but at the same time, I also feel like in a way it's telling you another way to perceive the pack. It is called Life in Gibby Point. There's a quiet magic to Gibby Point that often gets overlooked in favor of the Raku's outdoor adventures people tend towards while visiting. The warm, gentle mist that remains after the hothead rock geyser finishes erupting, the subtle percussion of the topiary leaves as a dozen butterflies take flight from its branches, the soothing, ethereal ripple of the electric lagoon's glimmering surface at night. It's truly a gift. And I feel like for me personally, this gives me inspiration to like places that I can go visit in the world that might actually look really like beautiful at specific moments. But in a way, it's also, I read this and it reminded me of how I sometimes experience like situations or life where everyone is like too busy running around and like everyone's buzzing with energy and doing things. But then there's like this little moment of stillness that you realize how beautiful nature can be or how beautiful the world is that we live in. And I love that that sort of same sentiment is slipped in through the game and like makes you in a way appreciate the pack or the world that you're playing in a bit more. Then the next item actually refers to, you know how every country has some skeletons in their closet about things that happen in their history that, you know, remain accurate and important? This is definitely one of them. The Wonderwood bar stool. We recommend not putting these outdoors. These bar stools were made from trees that the local plum birds love to roost in. And no, the issue isn't that they'll ruin it by trying to sit on it. The problem is that they're smart enough to know these seats aren't trees anymore. And they know it's your fault. So watch out. And I feel like this is definitely one of those things where, in a way, they're like kind of nodding to the fact that humans can destroy nature, and so do Sims. And in this case, the plum bird does not forget. Speaking of destroying nature, there was another event in the history of Gibby Point that actually almost eliminated all hardwood trees. This story is told in the item of the Wonderwood Ottoman. When the Great Wave washed across Gibby Point long ago, the only trees that survived were the softwood trees that could bend a bit when hit with force rather than a snap. Most of the older, stiffer trees were toppled easily. Nowadays, that means it's pretty hard to find good firewood around Gibby Point. But there's plenty to find for those who know how. And I don't know what they're alluding to. I actually tried to find more hints to that, like, for those who know how in other item descriptions. I couldn't find anything. So I'm actually kind of curious what that is referring to. And if I can find out in maybe, let's say, like a next pack or next DLC, maybe this is a hint to something. Because clearly no one in this pack knows how. But apparently you can know how. Then we're moving on to the next category, which is a very small category with only 3 items in it, but it refers to a very specific feature of this pack, namely the competition feature. Because obviously, if the Sims team was going to release a brand new expansion pack that has the feature to host competitions of differing kind in your game, obviously they had to slip in a little competition of their own. This is the Let Love Bloom competition. First, we look at eligible flower topiary number 1. Let's get to know the contestants of today's episode of Let Love Bloom. Contestant number 1 is an understated beauty, who, when you take the time to get to know her, has a rewarding trove of depth to her character. Her favorite things are living in public gardens, the smell of grass after it rains, and debating macroeconomics at family dinner. Let's invest in a warm welcome for contestant number 1, everyone. Then we meet eligible flower topiary number 2. Let's move right along to contestant number 2, a creative soul with a flair for the dramatic. Her favorite things are growing bright new blooms, the warmth of the sun, and most of all, heckling stage performers until she's permanently banned from the venue. Let's give our best boo for contestant number 2. And then we have eligible flower topiary number 3. Last but not least, contestant number 3 is here to give this competition a kick in the pants. She is fiery and audacious, a killer combo. Her favorite things are when bees nest in her branches, people watching, and of course arson. Let's, from a safe distance, welcome contestant number 3. And I want you to let me know in the comments down below, what is your favorite contestant? Which one do you think should win today's episode of Let Love Win? And then we have arrived at the last category for this video, and that is actually informative descriptions. Item descriptions that give you information about the item, which I personally almost feel silly for not reading because some of these items are actually super useful if you read the description. And we're gonna start with potentially one of my favorite items in this entire pack, and that is the Crub2Go appliance cart. Got a hankering for a microwaved meal, a blended concoction, or some other appliance-dependent culinary creation on the go? Tired of lugging around those several tons worth of countertop that you unceremoniously ripped from the wall of your kitchen just to have a smoothie in the park? Well, you're in luck. With the Crub2Go appliance cart, you can use appliances wherever, whenever. Go ahead, make some chicken nuggets in the backyard, you deserve it. And when I read this, I was like, thank God, finally. It has been a ridiculously long time of us not being able to place appliances on anything else but counters. It's been infuriating when you were doing builds that just needed a microwave, but you couldn't do it without a counter, but it made no sense to have a counter. Exactly like potentially having a smoothie in your backyard or taking it to the park. There's like so many scenarios that I can think of. So when I read this, I was like, yes, thank you for telling me, because probably if you hadn't written it in the instruction, I would have just thought that this was a beautifully decorative cart and I would have never realized that you could put appliances on it. Next up is another item that brings a very specific new skill to this pack, and that is the DIY Delight Paper Crafting Kit. This portable paper crafting kit is perfect for on-the-go arts and crafts. Take it to grandma's house, the library, to camp, or even drag it downstairs to get away from that loud, disruptive music your little brother plays non-stop. In no time at all, you'll be spritzing and plastering the derpiest of paper mache frogs and masterly folding origami cards, airplanes, and cootie catchers. By the way, I didn't know what a cootie catcher was. It is the fortune teller things. But there was actually quite some debate on what we call this. And in Dutch, there is no name for it. So if you know what you call it in your language, let me know below. And also, let me know if you call it a cootie catcher, because I've never heard this term before. I like that this item description actually tells you that this is a portable thing. It's one of those things that you probably would have found out by accident, by just accidentally dragging it. But I think it's a really nice thing that your kid can put it in their inventory and they can take it with them. So they can take it with them to the park, and it basically plays on any table surface, so they can take it to the park, and if there's a picnic table, they can do paper crafts in the park. It's one of those items that I think I'm gonna actually give to my kids almost always, because it's such a nice thing if you do storytelling, like literally if you send them to their grandparents over the weekend with the new getaway feature, that if you want to know how to use it, I'm gonna release a tutorial on the difference between like getaways and custom venues and how to set all the schedules and stuff. So subscribe to my channel if you want to see that, or check it out if you see this video later and it's already released. It should come out like 2 days after this video, I think. Basically, this is going to be such a nice feature to be able to let your kids build a skill or work on something on the go. Specifically, if you consider that the activity tables now are so like such a permanent spot and also a very specific style. So I like that there is now an item that your kids can take around and also that you can easily place in different places of the house. Then the next item actually told me something that I have then tested in game, and it does actually work. It is the Paddler's Pride Kayak. Do you hate the beach, but here you stand in Gibby Point with your toes in the sand? Then look no further than this beautiful kayak to help you ditch the beach entirely and go paddling through the waves like a pro. You can even go fishing on it. And this is something that I don't think I would have even ever tried. Maybe I would have eventually noticed it in like the menu while I was kayaking, but I think I would have just assumed that it's a skill and I would just send my Sims kayaking and never really think on clicking on the water while on the kayak. But you literally, if your sim is like somewhere and they're not actively pedaling, they're just laying there idle, you can click on the water and they can fish from the kayak. And that is actually something that, I don't know, I never expected them to implement that. I don't think I would have missed it. There's actually another thing that allows you to go fishing. If you have a higher archery skill, you can go bow fishing, which is also something that it doesn't specify it anywhere in the item descriptions, but it's a nice something that they've kind of like integrated kayaking and archery archery with fishing. And I figured if I didn't share this or if I hadn't read the description, I probably wouldn't have known for a really long time. Then next up, we have another big pack feature, and I feel like I don't necessarily need to read every single item description for this one, but I do think it is important to tell you about it. So one of the features with this pack is the imaginary friends one. And every single imaginary friend comes through like a doll. So you can buy 4 different dolls, and every different doll will have its own personality. And you can read about the personality and like basically what the default setting of that imaginary friend will be in the description. So the first one is Little Monster Imagine Me doll. Meet Little Monster, your child's new best friend. Each of Kindermaid's Imagine Me dolls have their own big personality, so that your child's imagination can come to life. Little Monster is a natural goofball who loves joking around when times are rough. Let's turn those blues into rainbow hues is one of their favorite things to say. And everyone remembers that Little Monster helped a grumpy dragon learn to laugh by tickling its tail. If your child wants adventure, fun, and a whole lot of laughs, Little Monster is just the friend for them. And basically then it just gives you an instruction on how to use it, like how it actually works. And something that is very important to note is if you don't like the default personality of this doll, but you would want to use it, you can actually change their personality. So as soon as you place the doll, there's an interaction when you click on it that will tell you that you want to like change their default setting. But if you want to know what that default setting exactly means, like what is their sort of trait and what is their personality, you can go read the descriptions on every single one of the dolls and it will just tell you what kind of imaginary friend they are basically. And then lastly, I've already covered some of the butterflies, but there are actually more butterflies in this pack that have an informative description. They're not necessarily funny, but they're literally just telling you about the butterfly. Even though it's a fake butterfly, it's literally a butterfly that doesn't exist, but they came up with this entire informative story about what this butterfly, like where this butterfly is from and why it has certain colors. And I just feel like it's too fun not to read. The first one is the cryptic moth. The origins of the cryptic moth sparked debate amongst Lepidopterists. I never know how to say this word. I keep messing it up in every single description. Lepidopterists? This elusive nocturnal moth bears a striking resemblance to the plumbirds in its natural habitat. And the cryptic moth is most often spotted following a cryptic sighting. I actually think, upon reading this, I think that was supposed to say following a plumbird sighting. Some theorize that these moths are attracted to the plumbird due to their similar coloring, perhaps seeing it as one of their own. That's why I'm thinking it should say plumbird and not cryptic, because I think it is actually supposed to say that the cryptic moth will show up when a plumbird does. So if you spot the plumbird, there's a high chance of you after that seeing a cryptic moth so that you can actually catch them. So it tells you information about where to find them. More fantastical theories propose that the cryptic moth came from a giant plumbird that exploded into many small moths. Again, very much alluding that it's like related to the plumbird some way. I've actually sent the Sims team the feedback because I think it might say, or maybe it's a language barrier on my end and I'm just misunderstanding what this description is supposed to say, but I think it should say that the cryptic moth is most often spotted following a plumbird sighting. Some theorize that these moths are actually attracted to the plumbird due to their similar coloring. Let me know in the comments down below what you think, what it should say. But I still think it's really cool that one of the butterflies actually has like a description that is tied to something else that comes with the pack. And then lastly, we have the Cordelian butterfly. And this is actually a butterfly that I found one of the easier ones to catch, but it actually has a really cool backstory. Few realize that the famed Captain Rodrigo de Pablo, a pirate, was also one of the greatest lepidopterists of his time. He was rather clumsy and stumbled upon a host of new butterfly species, on accident mind you, when sailing the world and visiting distant shores. In total, he found and named over 14 new butterflies, but his favorite was the Cordelian butterfly, which he named for his love, Princess Cordelia of House Thebe. He wrote, "As this butterfly flutters by, its wings echo the lilac depths of her gaze and the silken grace of her gown, a tribute to my cherished princess." And again, I feel like they just come up with this entire lore about a captain who was supposedly a pirate who was in love with a princess just to name a simple butterfly. And this is genuinely one of those things why I feel like you really miss out if you don't read the pack descriptions or like all the item descriptions, because this just goes to show how far the Sims team goes to add like depth and lore and stuff to the pack that you just completely miss out on if you never read the item descriptions. I had such a blast reading all of these. I genuinely loved reading every single one of them and finding all these like little hidden details, lore, all the funny bits, the whole BamCo Corporation drama. These are just things that I very much enjoy. I would love to know in the comments, what was like your favorite category, or maybe even specifically your favorite description? What was the part that you least expected or that you found the most entertaining? And again, let me know in the comments down below if you want to see more videos like this. Like if this is something that you enjoy, because like I said, it takes a lot of time, so I wouldn't want to spend all that time digging into all of the packs if this is something that no one really enjoys. And I'm just the only person that enjoys reading these item descriptions, but I can imagine that there might be more people out there who think this is actually incredibly fun. With all of that said, don't forget to hit that like button for this video as well, subscribe to my channel, basically anything to support the content that I make. And if you're gonna buy the new expansion pack, don't forget to use my code Rosannatxt upon checkout to support my work as well. And with all of that being said, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate every single one of you, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye everyone!